you know?
Did you know that your bills don't go away when you get a cold? And they most certainly won't go away if you're diagnosed with cancer or renal failure. Let Sagicor help you prepare. Sagicor keeps its promise to you. Wise financial thinking for life.
I had a really good time tonight.
So did I.
Life moves fast. Be prepared with Sagicor. Learn more at sagicorlife.com.
Good morning, welcome to Morning Matters. Our guest this morning is Ambassador Daniel Gutierrez. He's here this morning to share with us a little bit about his story and how he managed to have achieved all the things that he has thus far. Ambassador, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, good morning. It's lovely to join you.
It is definitely my pleasure. I mean, I seem to have been able to see you at least once a year for Ruth and Maya. So now COVID has been kind to me. I get to see you twice in 1 year and have conversation. Oh, nice.
Well, I hope it is indeed a blessing and not a curse, but it is certainly a blessing for me. It's good to see you.
It's a blessing for me as well. Ambassador, I want to start off with you before you became ambassador. Where did you grow up and what was your life like as an early child?
I was born and raised in San Ignacio. I was raised around 12 Bullet Tree Road, right by around where Falcon Field is. And I went to primary school at Sacred Heart School. After that, I attended 4 wonderful years at Sacred Heart College. Pretty uneventful childhood, Rhonda. Nothing to write a book about, I can tell you that for sure. After that, I went to university. I skipped the sixth form experience and I went to university. I did a licentiate degree. I spent 5 years in Latin America, in Guatemala to be specific. I was at Landivar for 5 years. College years were wonderful. I mean, I guess that's true for most people I have had the opportunity to meet. No different for me. I had a wonderful experience in university. So after 5 years at Landivar, I wanted to do a graduate program, and I ended up in the United States at St. Joe's University in Philadelphia. Those were the years that, reality hit you because mommy and daddy scholarship done. So you have to figure out things for yourself, So those are the years in Philadelphia. I got married in Philadelphia to a Belizean woman. But my upbringing was pretty non-remarkable, we should say. My parents, as I said before, my giants, they have been, my mom, a school teacher. My mom taught for 27 years at Sacred Heart School. My father had a cabinet shop. And I remember my brother Javier and I, we were very young kids. It was a part of our responsibility. When the school day was done, we would come home and we would have to help my father in the wood shop. And we would go down and we would clean and we would do whatever it is that was necessary. And we would also have to do that on weekends. So from a very early age, my parents ensured that we knew that we had responsibilities. We were not wealthy by any stretch of imagination. So we were wealthy with love, and that was about it. And we were wealthy with books. My parents always ensured we had a lot of books. My parents always ensured we had love. My parents always ensured we had inspiration. So my siblings and I were very lucky in that sense. But from a very young age, we had those responsibilities, and that carried through. Even when I was in high school, that was the case. Very early on in high school, I enjoyed being in youth groups. I did, I don't know if you remember, it's a lifetime ago, but it was called the Youth Jamboree, the National Youth Jamboree. You remember that? Yeah. And for a couple of years, for several years, I attended that. I made lots of friends that I still have today. Good people. I was in the youth group, the Sacred Heart youth group, and then I participated in a number of different things in high school, in that area. By second form, I had somehow had the opportunity to come up and do a youth leadership program, and I did that in the United States for a whole summer. And that was really the first time I came to the United States. I was in the summer of 1989. So all of those experiences combined to instill in me from that age, from the high school age. Yes, you could party, you could have friends, you could enjoy high school, but there is a seriousness to life. There's a fact that there are things that you need to do as a citizen, And if you're young, well then, commensurate with being young, you join youth groups, you join the scouts, you volunteer for this and that. And as you get older in life, those responsibilities change. So, tell me.
It seemed that you had, like you would term it, a normal childhood. But a lot of children don't have that norm that you experience. A lot of children don't come from a two-parent household. They don't come from a household where there is structure. Your mother was an educator for 25 plus years. Your father was his own boss. So I would imagine that those examples created structure in your life. If you were to say who had the biggest influence over your life, was it your mother or your father, if you were to choose?
I wouldn't choose, and I would perhaps say it like this: they provided the background that each provided was different. My father was, or is rather, he's still alive and kicking. My father was an interesting man when he was working. He used to, and I remember pretty well, I mean, he used to have a place for every single thing in that tool shop. I mean, down to a spanner. And my brother and I had to know exactly where those things had to be. It was uncanny, really. It was a strange situation. And we got used to that rigor. We had to know what to do, how to do it. Obviously, the machinery dealt with blades, with saws, and it could cut you, it could hurt you. So we early on developed an ability to work around that kind of equipment, and he would let us use most of the equipment. So that develops in you responsibility, that develops with you a certain order, because we came from school, we had to be down there. And then you go upstairs, you drink tea, you shower, and you do your homework, right? So there was a whole, and we didn't think about it. I remember several of my friends didn't have that. I mean, they would come home and they could be able to play for a while, and I am not here complaining. I'm not here complaining at all. But now that you think back on it, there was that almost daily rigor that we had, and I think it was certainly beneficial to us. That came from my father. My father always told us, the four of us, if you are not going to do a job well, don't do it. You must do things to the absolute best of your ability. You must be honest with what you do. You must be honest with yourself. You must be honest with your clients, in the case of the wood shop. And that has stuck with me to this very day. Both my parents were readers, but my mom was an educator. So yeah, through my mom, we got that love for education, that love to learn. I still read. I'm reading a book as you know, during this COVID thing. In fact, I don't read enough. I complain to myself. So from my mom came that desire to read a lot, and you know, we certainly were not allowed to slack off in school. Let's just put it like that. Yeah. So I guess my father was more, he taught many of the life lessons that my siblings and I will keep with us today. And I always think about the fact that today, you know, the four of us have had an opportunity to serve. And that desire to serve our country, to give back to our community, a lot of that came from my father, because my father he went to St. John's College, and he got infected by this Jesuit social justice thinking. And he was pro-independence. He was pro-Belize being free. He was pro us being independent and doing our own thing and being self-sufficient and not relying on anybody. to this day, my father is an ardent believer in all of that. At 7 years old, I was 7 years old, and I remember I saw in downtown San Ignacio, I was there, and my father took me then to the independence celebration. So these are the kinds of things that you never forget. But you ask me what comes from whom, and that's from my father. We get that very nationalistic. You know, my brother served in the armed forces. I'm doing this now. My sister is a nurse in San Ignacio, and my younger sister is a doctor in the Southern Regional System. So we've all served in a way. And I think that a lot of that comes from my parents, who believed in this project called Belize. They saw Belize during the age of colonialism, and they did not like what they had seen. And for them, an independent Belize, a Belize where we can stand on our own and not have to beg anybody for anything, was very important. And by the way, we were not allowed to beg anybody for anything. That was very important, and still is. So.
You know, when I can sit here and listen to your story forever, because I get a sense of family from the way you describe your upbringing. But you grew up very near to the Guatemalan border. You went to Belize, or you did your early childhood education in Belize. And then when you wanted to go to tertiary level education, you transitioned to Guatemala. What was that transition like, considering I would imagine you were initially taught in English and now you have to study and write in Spanish? What was that all like for you?
It was not easy in the beginning. It's a funny story how I ended up in Guatemala, but I was accepted into St. John's already, and I was getting books and finding a place to stay and all of that. And I just, I told my parents, you know what, I have this tertiary thing. Now, they would not have that at all. They never want to hear that for nothing. You will go to tertiary education. No and ifs or buts. And I remember it was my parents, my father was, like St. John's because he went there, but he was a believer in Jesuit education, and he said, okay, you want to go to tertiary school, and that's how they discovered Landivar, which is a tertiary school. In fact, it bears the same name as the Landivar campus. And my dad said, okay, that's where you're going. We're not ask you that you're going to school, done. So that's how I ended up there. It's not, we did not have the resources for me to do, to choose. I pretty much said, that's what we can afford. That's where you're going. So that's where I ended up going. And it was an interesting transition, because I'll tell you, growing up in San Ignacio, San Ignacio is kind of that last Western kind of heavily Caribbean influenced part of Belize as you're growing up. As you go into Sokots and Benke, things change a bit. So you don't realize how not Latin you are. You're mestizo.
Yes.
But you don't realize how not Latin you are until you land in Latin America. And you go, oh my God, we're so different. So in that sense, it was a culture shock. The culture of the hug and the kiss and the handshake. But we didn't do that much in Belize. And that's, you kind of get used to that, and you have to get into that. And of course, like you said, the Spanish speaking every day. I spoke to my parents in Spanish, and that's how I learned Spanish. And you think you learn Spanish, and then you land at tertiary school, and you go, whoa, I did not sign up for this. But, like I said, the lemma was, if you're going to do something in life, do it well, or else don't do it at all. And not doing it was not an option. And I was there. It was a tremendous opportunity and a tremendous, it was a sacrifice for my parents. So not doing it was not an option. So it had to be done. And well, I found a way to do it. There were other Belizeans who had gone to school in Guatemala, mostly at San Carlos, but some of them who spoke hardly a word of Spanish. And I said, listen, if they could do it, this can will do it. So you challenge yourself, and I was very fortunate. of course, in university at that time in Landivar, I was able to, with several of my professors, I was able to write in English. I'd given my papers in English, and textbooks, some of them were in English. So it wasn't that, it was less traumatic than you would believe, but it wasn't that easy for sure.
What made you choose the course of studies that you did?
Remember I mentioned to you that I was in the youth groups, and in the youth group, there are many opportunities to rally your colleagues and get things done and do projects and cleanups and barbecue sale and all of that kind of fun stuff, right? So there you discover within yourself that there's a calling, one way to say it, to be able to work within groups to accomplish goals. And I found that Belize could do with people who were trained, who had a background in journalism, who had a background in communication. And I found myself very comfortable there. So that's where I did 3 years of journalism communication, a lot of that theory. And then the final 2 years, I did it in advertising, which is really what I ended up specializing in the last 2 years of the licentiate program. I just found myself very comfortable in that space. And I think I might still do that to some degree, but it was very useful for what was to come for me in the future.
Well, you didn't know what the future held, but it seemed that God, for those of us that believe in God, some would say God was pointing you in the right direction. When you were growing up, did you have any idea of what you wanted to be?
I wanted to be an archaeologist, so let me answer that straight off the top. I loved history. I was always inspired by visiting our archaeological sites in Belize. I was always fascinated by what the classic Maya civilization may have once looked like. And that was what I thought that I wanted to be. In fact, up until when I actually got to university and I had to choose something, that was pretty much still in the back of my mind. So that was what I wanted to be. But no, not more than that. Not more than that. And I knew though that I wanted something that I could have a job where I could obviously take care of myself and if I had a family in the future. And something that inspired me. I mean, when you're 17, 18, you're not worried about anything grander than that. You're just thinking of something that you like, something that you can go to work every day, and you enjoy doing on a daily basis. And that was it. I mean, I enjoyed journalism. I remember there were some occasions in Guatemala when they had these protests in downtown Guatemala, and they had the police, just like you see here in the States these days, and the police lined up and firing tear gas. And we were out there with, taking pictures, and it was so much fun. Of course, you don't tell your parents that because they would go bananas, right? But these social issues, this lens on life was interesting, and journalism allowed me to do that, and certainly allowed me to enjoy my years in university.
So why did you not choose to be the archaeologist that you had dreamt of becoming?
This is going to sound really shallow, but my mom said, son, I love you. You could do whatever you want. I'm not telling you what to do, but archaeologists live off of grants. And I said, I don't know if I want to live off of grants. I want a steady job. And so communication was plan B. My brother, my brother. I think the country knows my brother well. He's a great communicator. And that too was also an inspiration because I knew he had talent to do it. So, I saw him had a lot of fun with it. So I said, okay, that'll be the plan B.
Well, excellent. On that note, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we will speak to you as the ambassador that you are.
New Buildings Limited is the company of choice when it comes to design, fabricating and erection of wide-span metal buildings in Belize. At New Buildings, we have a team of well-trained professionals that can produce the most innovative and durable metal structures. Be it domestic or industrial buildings, we can get it done for you. We have put together some of the most outstanding metal structures in the country. We also do estimates and consulting. Visit New Buildings in Spanish Lookout or give them a call at 631-8723 or 610-5185. New Buildings Limited, the experts when it comes to metal structures in Belize.
At West-Trac Belize City, we are looking to help you save both your time and money. We've also improved our stock levels to ensure we have everything you might need for your automotive or agricultural needs. Additionally, West-Trac has added heavy-duty and industrial parts to keep your trucks and equipment running. At West-Trac Belize City, we understand that your time is important, so we want to bring our services to you at your convenience. Now you can simply send us a message on WhatsApp or Facebook and we will be right there to help with any questions you may have.
At NextGen, we work for you. Because despite you not being able to be together, we can keep you connected, united, talking to each other, seeing each other, communicating with each other. Stay connected with NextGen.
NextGen, powered by Central TV and Internet.
Welcome back to Morning Matters. Ambassador Gutierrez in with us this morning. Ambassador, welcome back.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Ambassador, this is not your first. You have held a position that's similar or may have been a little similar to this in the past. You served as ambassador to CARICOM. What was that experience like?
That was different. I didn't know it when I first took the job. That was early 2016, and I didn't do a lot of time there. I actually worked in the office of the Prime Minister as the executive director for the EDC, and I also held the post as ambassador to CARICOM. What I shouldn't say I've discovered, but certainly what hit me when I took that job is the value that many Belizeans still don't know, of what CARICOM means for Belize. You know, we all hear about it in high school, right? You know, you do your CXCs and you get Caribbean history. We all go through that, but it doesn't hit you. And it hit me when I got there way later in life, because I realized that the volume of trade we do with CARICOM is something that I did not know. And CARICOM means business for Belize. That is what it means. Belize is one of the, if not the best, most efficient agricultural producer in the CARICOM space, bar none. And the potential for us, separate and apart from the current sales, whether it's in citrus, crude oil, whatever it is that we sell into the CARICOM space, is minuscule compared to what it can be. And you know the sugar discussion now, Rhonda. So it really hit me that we have not done as good a job as we should. And I included myself then as CARICOM ambassador. We did not do what we could have done to have the Belizean public understand. Man, this CARICOM, not some ephemeral group of people who get together out there. We share a common language. Yes, we share a common language. We share a lot of common heritage, a common legal system. But it means business. It means export business, especially right now that we have this COVID situation where we are looking at tourism and say, yes, you know, of course we need the tourism industry, important, we're going to keep supporting it, blah, blah, blah. But we need to diversify our economy. CARICOM provides us a very important pedestal to be able to diversify our economy. And that hit me then. So that experience was an eye-opener. And unfortunately, the mechanics of that job means, as in many jobs in this realm of being in diplomacy, it means sitting around tables, it means negotiating, it means putting your position forward, it means coming up with common positions, it means giving, it means taking, it means participating, it means making sure that your voice is heard. So it meant a lot of flights into Guyana, which is, you heard about their big oil discovery. Guyana is going to change significantly over the next few years. I'm happy for them. So it meant a lot of trips into Guyana, all over the Caribbean, and I'll tell you, in my own experience, it really prepared me in many ways for the job that I now do, because we'll talk about that later, but without that CARICOM experience, there are a number of things that I benefit from that experience now here.
Yes, we will get to that, but since we brought up CARICOM, and this is the opportune time to discuss CARICOM, because I think we need each other now more than ever. But we have these non-tariff barriers that seem to create one of the biggest, and I would use the word loosely, problems for us. Do you think that this is time for us to relinquish that or do something to adjust it so that people, the Caribbean people, can better benefit from what we have?
Well, I think any Belizean who understands this space would certainly love to see many of those non-tariff barriers by other CARICOM member states be lifted. There's no doubt in my mind that we certainly should get the benefit of the doubt as Belize in terms of sugar. The set protection, the common external tariff applied to our sugar could be a lifesaver for Belize, and I think it's imperative that CARICOM look very closely at that, because if that is not what you have, if that is not why you created the CARICOM space, if that is not why our forefathers sat around in Chaguaramas and came up with this, then for what? Yes, obviously we lean on them with the Guatemala situation. We have a common voice when we are navigating the major powers. All of that is important. But at the end of the day, we need to put food on the table, and we have to help ourselves do that. And if we are keeping these non-tariff barriers, then it goes against the grain of what CARICOM means. So I will definitely agree with you that we should continue to do all we can to convince our brothers and sisters in the sub-region that these barriers are not good for business. And where we have them ourselves, the products from CARICOM, then we need to not talk out of two sides of our mouth. I don't know that we do, because I have been here for 3 years now. But I know that there were some issues with patties and other stuff that we've dispensed with. So I don't know that we are infringing on any of that, but I would certainly agree with you that where people have these barriers, they ought to just go away.
And they should, in my opinion as well, go away now out of necessity, or they need to be more flexible out of necessity. Maybe not go away completely, because we still need some level of accountability. But definitely, I think there needs to be a little bit more flexibility. You also served for a substantial amount of time at the Belize Natural Energy. What was that experience like?
B&E, when I came back from grad school in Philadelphia, I was at Sacred Heart College at the junior college division for a couple of years, and then I went on to B&E, and I was at B&E for close to 10 years, I believe. B&E is one of those experiences where you realize the great potential of our country. Separate and apart from the hundreds of millions of dollars that were pumped into the government coffers and the millions of dollars that went out into the economy, and that did very well for Belize for a very long time. And those who may not have believed that then, you could see the impact when we don't have it now, right? So enough said about that. It's a real shame that we did not find those other oil deposits. They are there. I'm confident that they are there. They're somewhere in the country. But having said that, it was a tremendously unique experience. Remember, I served through Rhonda in the B&E Trust, and millions of dollars were put into the building of schools, libraries. We put we helped with the health centers around the country. Not scholarships, student loans. A lot of money went into having student loans through the credit unions. So a lot of good work was done at VNE and the VNE Trust. And I'm no longer there, but I wish them all the best. I know it's difficult right now. But your question was, what was that like? It was a very, very good experience. As a Belizean, I was proud to work there. As a Belizean, I was happy to have had that opportunity to serve there in the private sector and give back to the country of Belize.
Considering your mother is an educator, when you initially came back from school, you served as the dean at Sacred Heart College in San Ignacio. What was that experience like?
Well, when I came back, I wasn't dean. When I came back, I went into the classroom.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Eard was kind enough to give me a job. The man rolled the dice on me, and I'm glad he did. And I will publicly say thank you to him. I enjoyed that experience. I enjoyed being in the classroom because kids inspire you. I mean, kids come up with the darndest of things and they keep you on your toes, and you must continue to learn to teach. So it kind of kept you in the game. It kept you doing research. We did a number of unique things. I think we started Hands for Life that on a yearly basis they give back now to the southern regions of the country, or they were. I don't know if they've changed that since. We got involved in Ruta Maya. You remember that? I think that's the first time we met, probably way back then. That was fantastic. And then, of course, in about 3 or 4 years, I believe, I was asked to serve as interim dean while Dr. Kaur did her PhD. And that was fascinating. That was a management of a fairly large organization at an early life, and it was a bit daunting, but it was a great experience. I met some good friends that I still have today. We came up with unique programs. I believe we were probably one of the first to have tourism management back then, if I'm not mistaken. Software development, information technology, some really neat programs. I still run into many of these students all over the place. And my mother told me that all the time. One of the most gratifying things is when you run into a student, and if they don't run for the hills, it means you did something right. And I am honored by meeting many of my old students, and so that stays with you for life. And certainly that experience did. The whole ad-lib experience where you get to try to make things better on a national basis. So yes, that was fun. That was fun. It was a different stage. That was fun.
You experienced a lot of stages in your life, and it seemed like you've taken a lot of your father's advice. You go and then you elevate and then you leave it. But let's stay there for a little bit. Did being in the classroom give you a different or a better appreciation of what your mother's life was like?
If I tell you yes, in a sense, I'm afraid I could get in trouble with my mother and all of the primary school teachers. Let me tell you, teaching at tertiary, it was my experience that we did not have to do half of the grunt work that I remember my mother having to do as a primary school teacher. My mother would, from time to time, when she goes and buys groceries, I knew she would buy a little bit extra for some people. And that's not unique to my mother. I mean, primary school teachers still do that, is my understanding today, So it's a different experience. I mean, you see that at tertiary, but the face of a hungry child is something that no amount of training can prepare you for. And certainly us at tertiary, we didn't have that the way my mom did. But it gives you more of an appreciation for those teachers who were involved in your life in primary. All of us. What the teaching experience at Sacred Heart did do for me was that it inspired me. It cemented in me something that my wife had told me from, she's a believer in this. She says all the time, we can do it in Belize. We have the people, where people know food and could do it. They're highly capable. And being there, you realize that you get these kids from high school and you mold them, or they mold themselves really into very productive citizens. I won't tell you that there aren't exceptions, but for the most part, Rhonda, I'm proud of those kids. I've seen them all over the country. They're not kids anymore, they're adults. And they're contributing, you know, when you see them on TV, and whether they are at Beltrade or they are running the malaria program. So I'm not gonna call names. You're proud of these guys, right? And you, it's quite inspiring. Yeah.
Did you have any, what made you say, you know what, here I can't stay in terms of teaching?
Well, remember, I only did about 3 years in the classroom. Then I did administration. So there was already a change. I left for industry because I've always liked industry. Let me tell you something. When you take a piece of 2 by 12 by 10 and you plane that and you rip that and you put that in the molder, and something that was a chunk of wood now you convert it into nice pieces of mahogany molding. There's not a feeling to, there are hardly any words to describe that. That's, industry is fascinating. Industry is the creation of wealth. Industry is the transformation of natural resources into wealth that benefits people and benefits the nation. And that has always attracted me. It still does. I wish to still do that in my life at some point. So to me, it was a no-brainer. I mean, when the opportunity came to get into an industry that could transform the country, I didn't blink. So I was happy to take that on.
You know, Ambassador, I think that when your parents think of you or see you, they both of them must be equally happy, because that part of you just now that you just described, I receive it as being the carpenter's son. That's just what that was. He did his thing with wood and he did all of that, but it really is of the same concept. He built the way he knew, and you are a builder in your own respect. We're going to take a break, but when we come back, I want to know if you, at any point in time, did you imagine that you would be an ambassador sitting in front of us today? We're going to take a break and be back.
I chose Galen because of its strong reputation, great scholarships.
I came because I can take all my classes online.
Because Galen University opens doors to the outside world.
Their course offering in tourism.
It gives me more opportunity to become who I want to be.
If you want to connect with your inner champion to make the world a better place, then Galen is right for you.
I choose Happy Cow cheese because of its perfect portion sizes, and I can travel with it.
Because it's nice and soft and creamy, and it goes smooth on your bread.
I choose Happy Cow cheese because I eat it with my beans. I eat it with my fried jack. And you know why? Because it's nice.
Most of all, when you're on plane, you know they only give you some crackers, and you could just take one out and enjoy it with Happy Cow cheese.
I'm Miss Baker, and I choose Happy Cow cheese because it goes well with all the stuff I bake.
Happy Cow cheese. Look for it in a store near you. Distributed in Belize exclusively by Emilio Ahmad and Sons Limited.
At NextGen, we work for you. Because despite you not being able to be together, we can keep you connected, united, talking to each other, seeing each other, communicating with each other. Stay connected with NextGen.
NextGen, powered by Central TV and Internet.
Did you know that it's best to keep the lumber stored in a dry place?
At KT Enterprises, all our wood is stored in an enclosed space to provide our clients with the highest quality.
We allow you to personally select your lumber if you choose, and we deliver countrywide.
Be it deckboard, beams, and imported hardwoods such as red oak and white ash. At KT Enterprises, we provide you with the highest grade in treated pine, construction grade plywood, and imported hardwood, delivered to your door.
We continue to build Belize by reforesting its pine forest.
Visit us today at
2.3 miles Iguana Creek Road, or give us a call at 671-0114 or 672-0114.
Here at Coop Sheet Metal, we believe our job is very essential in serving our customers. And that is just one reason why visiting us is an experience to be remembered.
Here at Coop Sheet Metal, we have a reliable fleet of trucks. We specialize in countrywide delivery of all our material.
Coop Sheet Metal is a family business that was started by my grandfather, who even had many of his machines hand-built decades ago to make our products the most reliable in Belize. Come visit us at our new facility on Iguana Creek Road, just past the Belize River leading to Spanish Lookout.
Welcome back to the third and final segment of Morning Matters. Ambassador, welcome back.
Thank you.
So, when we ended the second segment, I asked, did you imagine holding the post that you do today?
Not as a younger man, no. No, the answer is no. I met Belizean diplomats when I was in Guatemala. In fact, one of them is still my good friend. He's the Assistant Secretary General of the OAS today. We're very, very proud of him, Ambassador Mendez. But you know, you come and go from your life. I never really saw myself in that role. It wasn't until I did the work at the Chamber of Commerce, and at the Chamber we did advocating, and we took positions, and we worked with the government. And you won't get everything you want. You need to keep pushing. You need to keep encouraging your own people to stay with you. You need to keep encouraging the government that you're a credible interlocutor. And it was sometime in that process that it did occur to me that if the opportunity were ever to be presented to serve the country by way of, I had never worked for the government in that sense in my whole life, no? But it occurred to me that if that opportunity were ever given, I would consider it. And it was, and I'm happy I did. It has been a tremendous honor. It has been a unique experience, and it's something that I will be able to tell my grandchildren about if I ever have them. Mm-hmm. So the answer is no. I never thought about it that way. And it wasn't until later in life, like I said, especially with the Chamber experience, that I realized that there is a place for me to give back in that realm if they would ever have me. And so here I am.
Here you are. What experience do you think best prepare you for being ambassador today?
I was going to tell you I'm married, but I run into trouble with the boss. You have to, you know, I win arguments and back, you know, I win a lot of it. You have to be willing to give and take. No. I'm seriously, you know, working at B&E, when I did in the early years, Rhonda, you will remember, the industry was new to Belize. You had to go around introducing this industry. You had to introduce this industry to students. You had to introduce this industry to the business community. You had to introduce this industry to people in government, to politicians, to village council leaders, to village chairmen and chairwomen, to the neighbors, the villagers down the road, to the Mennonite community. I mean, you would have to introduce this industry, and that is a challenge because the oil industry is working an uphill battle. There is a tremendous amount of resources that is thrown against the fossil fuel industry, and that, you know, Belizeans watch those outlets. So you would get a lot of that, and you would feel that as you go around. You would be bunched in there with the chalios kind of crowd. And so that was an opportunity certainly to present an argument, to say no, yes, there, you know, this is what you're seeing, this is the reality, and this is how we can shape the upcoming reality. And I think in a way that certainly was a quote training ground for this job, because people perceive our small countries in a certain way. Here in the United States, people might perceive all of Central America a certain way. And you have to take the time to tell them, no. We don't do that, that's my country. We don't do that, that's my country neither. We don't have coup d'etats, we don't have revolutions, we don't have the dire poverty in the same amount as you have in other countries. We have our problems, we're not perfect. But when a party in government loses, the GG the following day, they swear in the next one. We don't have those issues in Belize. And you have to explain to them that we're not run by military juntas, and we don't have death squads that pick people up in the middle of the night. You have to tell people explain to people that in our country, you can be Christian, you can be Muslim, you can be whatever you like, and the government will not get involved in your business. You can tell people, and you tell people that in our country, people say the most outrageous things about PM Barrow. Nobody gets carted off to jail as in other countries. And about the leader of the opposition, and nobody goes and stones their house. So you have to tell people that, yes, I understand you're from America, the leader of the free world and all of that, but guess what? In my little corner of the world, we also have a lot of the things that you have, and in many ways we have more. So that is the story you get to tell. And it is not only an honor to tell that story, it is a joy to tell that story. Because a lot of people don't know Belize, Rhonda. A lot of people hear Belize and they think about the tourist pamphlets. And I don't have no issue with that because I want them to visit Belize. But I want them to know that there's more than that. I want them to know that, my mother was born the daughter of a chiclero. She was born in a family that was dirt poor, and she made it into the middle class. And I want them to know that my grandmother would sell poultry from the market on the weekends, and one of her grandsons is a senator, and the other one is a senior doctor, and the other one is this, and the other one is that, and the other one is that. So in our country, people who work hard can still make it. And I hope that that's something that we never lose in Belize. So is Belize perfect? No. We have to admit that. We are rough around the edges. There are things that we can improve. Absolutely. But boy, we're better off than many, many other places. And you should come and visit. So it's great to tell that story. It's great to, people are fascinated by Belize because here you are, right? Here's a mestizo with a Caucasian wife, with friends who are of African descent, Chinese, Belizean, and we're all there. And nobody's really looking at that. And it's something that, especially in this country, that stuff stands out. They may not want you to think so, but it does stand out. I mean, we're seeing it now with the George Floyd situation, right? So we can tell them we're not perfect. We have race issues as everybody, but certainly not as pronounced as in other places. And Belize is well diversified. It's a land of many, many different points of view for which nobody gets thrown in jail. It's a place of several different religions. And it's a place where you can, you speak your mind and
You have explained a lot of the joys, but what are some of the difficulties that come with a job like that you have?
There are difficulties. Well, we don't need to go into COVID, but Belize is, as a middle-income country, we never lose an opportunity to tell our trade partners, tell our development partners, this middle-income business, this middle-income classification that you have us in is killing us because we're small and vulnerable economies. And any shock, and we will have a problem paying bills. That's Belize, that's Barbados, that's Bahamas, and I can go on and on and on. I'm talking about many of the countries in CARICOM. So One of our challenges here is to ensure that our trading partners, ensure that those people at the IMF, those people at the IDB, those people at the at the World Bank understand that what we in the Caribbean are asking for. We don't want free money. We're not big enough for money. What we want is that the interest rates are commensurate with the vulnerability of our countries. All right? And we're not begging you for money. We are your customers. And you must treat us as customers. And you must recognize the fact that our economies are vulnerable, that we have these storms that visit us from year to year. You must recognize that we have droughts. You must recognize that we are not Mexico, we are not Argentina. So don't try to classify us like that. And that is the argument we have. One of the arguments. One of the other arguments we have, Rhonda, is the Caribbean. People look at the Caribbean and they say tax havens, and we say, no, man, no, stop it. If you want to talk about the Cayman Islands and other countries, go ahead and do that. But if you look at the countries of CARICOM, we are not, we're not money launderers, right? People like to say we're some of the biggest money launderers. How can it be when our entire combined economy is only a few $1 billion? How can you ever think of classifying us major money launderers? It is nonsensical. So we have to argue and put that argument on the table and tell them to create laws whose unintended consequences is the debanking of our region is dangerous to you, the host countries, to you, our host countries. It's dangerous because when our economies fail, guess where the Belizeans and the Bajans and the Trinidadians can come? They're not going nowhere else, they're coming right here. So if you don't want that to happen, then work with us so that our system is not debanked, so that our economies don't hurt from the lack of financial services.
Well, now we know you have a real job. For all the people that thought you just got the opportunity to go and sit down in Washington and read up the AC and talk to American people, now they know that you have a real job, and the job is not easy. I mean, you first started out with the butter, like I would call it, and then afterwards you got into the real heat. And I can tell that they've chosen a good man for this job. You speak with conviction and passion. You are obviously not shy about the position that you hold, but what keeps you inspired and motivated?
We are here as Belizean ambassadors to the US. I'm certain there are other areas of interest in my colleagues around the world, but Rhonda, right before you and I started this conversation, I was on the phone with Secretary General Luis Almagro of the OAS. Anything that happens on that border keeps me up as much as it keeps up any Belizean diplomat or any Belizean manager in Belmopan. The OAS is the organization that is in charge of the adjacency zone. And therefore, we work very closely with them to ensure that the confidence building measures with Guatemala are respected. We are the ones who will complain when our neighbors to the west will sometimes take liberties or try to take liberties with the confidence building measures. We are an extension of the guardians that are on our border. And that job we must take absolutely seriously. It's not only with the OAS, it is with the State Department, it is with Southcom, but certainly at the OAS to keep our Caribbean brothers and sisters apprised of what's happening, to keep the management of the OAS apprised of what's happening, and certainly keep communication flowing between Belmopan and our office here in DC. There have been, this is no secret, there have been difficult moments with our neighbors to the west. And we will need to keep that guardian, we will need to keep being those guardians until the ICJ pronounces. So that job is deadly serious. And whether it is poachers taking out baby scarlet macaws or somebody being hurt, whatever it is. Some of it you hear about. There's a lot going on in that border. Raf Manzanero keeps reminding us of that. So we cannot drop the ball. That is life or death for Belize, and it's a job that keeps us up.
We're winding down, I mean, in terms of time, but I think that mentorship is important. I see a lot of people that have made it further than they possibly could have thought were people that had mentors. Did you have mentors, or do you have mentors? And if so, how important are or were they in your life?
Absolutely. I mean, in every job that I've had, whether I run into trouble at ICE, but whether I was painting apartments and then running off to grad school and take off paint when you get home for 5 minutes, you have a mentor, and it doesn't matter that man was a Mexican laborer. I learned a lot from him. But if you go all the way back, my parents, we've gone through that already. Certainly, people that you run along to, I remember quite clearly in my first job, you go to work around 9 in the morning, and then because the sixth form was in the evening, right? And then you work till around 1, 2, you run home, you shower, you get ready to come back in the evening, and you go till 10. And you think you work hard, right? You think you're the job. And then you realize that Chris Aird is there from 7 in the morning and I'm not going home till 8 o'clock at night. And so these are the kinds of guys that inspire you to work and work hard. I can tell you the same thing at B&E. I mean, the people that I worked for were people that were and still are hardworking, people that never snubbed a job. And that inspires you, because those are the kind of leaders that you want to work with and work for. Certainly that has been the case in the government of Belize. My first job in GOB was working with the PM. That was a tremendous honor. I can tell you, I mean, whenever I needed to reach out to the PM, he always was available and still is. And that is a blessing. I know not all chief executives are like that. He has been that way with me, and I'm grateful for that. And so yeah, I've had all these mentors. I've been lucky enough to run into all of these people throughout my life. My wife also has the same work ethic and has always been a tremendous inspiration. And I will tell you, does everything I can do, plus takes care, has been more of an involved parent than I will ever be. And I'm not saying that with pride. I'm saying that that's the truth. When it comes to making sure the kids do their homework, when they make sure that they have everything ready for school the following day. I run out of steam earlier than she does, and I don't know how she does it, and it's been an inspiration to me. So the people around me have been an inspiration to me, Rhonda. And one thing too that I learned from my parents actually was, you will have all sorts of people around you, good and bad. If you invest energy in the bad, then you'll get stuck there. Invest energy in those that you can learn from. And because they're humans too, not everything about them will be perfect. But pick up those things that will make you a better person and make you a better version of yourself. So that's what I tell my own staff. I mean, I buy books for my staff because I want them to read, I want them to grow, I want them to learn, I want them to be better than I am. As I have had the opportunity to learn from bosses. No?
What has been your proudest moment?
Certainly the accomplishments of my children. I mean, it sounds maybe it's predictable, and that's okay. My daughter made it into med school. She's a special one, that one. She is, and I was very, very proud of both of them, obviously. So she went 3 years at Sacred Heart, and then she went 1 year here at Wooten, and now she's in med school. Very, very proud of that. Very, very proud of my son too for doing so well at school. So yeah, I'm like any parent, right? It's average. I'm thinking pick me, right? So I'm one of those. No different. Personally, I don't know if there's a proudest moment. I try to, wherever I need to represent, whether it's myself or my family, or my company, I try to do that to the best of my abilities. So each one of those micro moments are important, and I don't know that there is one more important than the other.
Ambassador, I say thank you for stopping and sharing with us this morning. It's definitely been a candid conversation. Any final words?
Yes, if I may, to those Belizeans who will listen to your program, and especially to the parents. There are parents now in Belize that have the opportunity to send their children abroad for tertiary education. Excellent. Good for them. I have heard too many parents though tell their children, "Oh, no, go and not come back." Don't do that. That cripples your country. Your country becomes what you leave there. I tell my children, go, learn, explore, get experience, but come home. This is your home. I don't want to ever hear, go because no opportunities there. The opportunities are here that you make. And we fail as citizens when we tell our children, go and not come back. Don't do that. I have run into so many talented Belizeans here in the United States doing incredible things. I'm exceedingly proud of each and every one of them. But boy, you know, it hurts me to think what would happen if these kids would have come home. If their parents would have told them, give Belize one shot at least. Come back and work for a couple of years. And if you don't like it, okay, fine. But don't tell them, go and not come back. Don't do that. It cripples the country.
Ambassador, that is why you are the ambassador, because those are the messages that the people absolutely need to hear. Again, I say thank you for stopping and sharing this morning. We look forward to future conversations with you. Again, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.